Hello and welcome to this week's Cats Whiskers TV. Happy New Year to you all. Coming up on this week's show, we'll be looking back at various incidents that took place over the weekend. I'm sure we'll be discussing them at quite a lot of length. Our hot topic this week is the Challenge Cup. Does the format need changing? We've got some of your tweets and we've got a couple of fan opinions as well. And of course, as always, we'll look ahead to the choice games coming up at the weekend. But first, it's the CWTV news.
I'm Paul Baum and this is the CWTV News. Maury Hansen's bands begin to bite. Brent Pope buys a new hat after home drubbing. Fans have plenty to say following Coventry Panthers brawl. Panthers' new imports arrive. And that was the CWTV News.
Thanks to Paul with the news there. Oh, he's back.
Hello.
You're all right. Okay, we're going to take a look back at Saturday night's games now. So, Aaron, any choice games you'd like to pick out from Saturday?
Well, should we talk about Cardiff Belfast in the Odyssey?
Good win for Belfast, 7-2. That's another good result for them. They're streaking ahead.
Well, you know, with it being a double weekend, you would have thought it's going to be a tight game, and you might see where the Belfast lie and where Cardiff lie. You know, are they going to make a play for it? But domination really from Belfast, wasn't it? Really on the Saturday, and we'll talk maybe about the Sunday a little bit later. But look, that Belfast train keeps on chugging, as we've mentioned, and it's, you know, by every week goes by, it's just edging closer and closer, isn't it? And from the other team's point of view, we need Belfast to start losing some games. But at the moment, it doesn't look like they're going to do it. But a disappointing start for Cardiff on the Saturday.
Paul, any games you like to pick out?
I think the Brayhead Hall game.
Sounded like it was good. It was a very, very close game all the way through, to in and fro in. I think Brayhead took the lead towards the end. Hull come back at 3-3 and then win it on the shootout.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the Hull have apparently got 4-point weekends the last 2 weekends, you know, and that's we can gloss over them beating us. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's a good set of results and ones, you know, the people, especially at the start of the season, people probably wouldn't have expected.
Well, I think we mentioned about how potent Hull's strike force is, and of course, considering they was out without Tendler as well this weekend, he was out with an injury, and that's a really good performance by the Stingrays. But of course, we'll move on to their Sunday game in a short while. Of course, the Premier Sports game live also went to a shootout, Dundee and Fife. Obviously, I was at the Panthers game on Saturday, so I saw bits of it on Sunday. It looked an absolute corking game.
Well, I mean, another shootout, so very tight game. But fair play to Fife, you know, they managed to nick the extra point. But no, a good Scottish game for Premier Sports. You know, portrays the atmosphere up there and the rivalry that you get in those rinks.
And it was coming through very much on the atmosphere, especially when Fife scored. It sounded like the roof was going to lift off the place.
Well, I think we've mentioned in previous, isn't it? That's what is great about seeing these games in these type of rinks. You know, you really do feel the atmosphere there. But Dundee, yes, it's a point, but they would have liked the extra point, obviously, to try and keep up there. You know, they're still doing fantastically well, don't get me wrong, but I think that's a real great extra point for Fife in that one. Really good start to the weekend.
And I think a word as well for their backup netminder Blair Daly, who played both games this weekend. Coming into a shootout situation, you probably you'd expect him to probably get beaten, but he stood tall and gained them the 2 points. So a really good performance by him. Because we'll move on to the Panthers game on Saturday night, which was obviously at the NIC, home game against Edinburgh, a 5-2 victory. We was both there.
Wasn't a classic, is that what you're trying to say?
It wasn't, but it was a professional performance by the Panthers, and I think our new signing took the plaudits.
Well, he did in that game. It disappointed me yesterday, but we'll get on to that later. But I mean, yeah, but you know, he showed great vision. Say he would only come in the afternoon. I mean, okay, he's played with Werner. He's played more recently with.
Grimaldi.
That's his name, Grimaldi. My memory's terrible. I've had a terrible day at work. And you know, he showed some really good insight. Came away with 2+2 in his first game. You know, it can't be bad. But when they, you know, without Hudlovsky, I thought we could have had 10. You know, as maybe more. The number of times he kept them in it with, you know, really good saves, especially the first period. We could have easily gone into the end of that 5-0 up.
Well, of course, we outshot them 17 shots to 2 in that first period. I mean, it was almost a massacre. But I mean, Orlovsky made some outstanding saves to keep him in it.
Yeah. Oh, he did. But you could tell as soon as that period, as soon as they got the puck, all they were bothered about was slowing things down. They couldn't handle us. And the problem is when you're only one up like that, you're always going to be vulnerable. I mean, we've talked about the net minding, and unfortunately Conway is no Kowalski. But, and, you know, yeah, he has good nights, but there's always that. When they made it 1-1, I got visions of that game last year, last season, when we lost, when we scored very early in the game. David Ling just cutting through him, roofing it past him, and looked like it was going to be plain sailing, and it wasn't. But when they made it 1-1, we dug in, came up with 2 quick goals, and took the game away from them. And I think it was lucky for Edinburgh that the second period buzzer when it did, because it looked like we got in Hudlovsky's head, throwing his stick about, because it was an unlucky goal to let in, but yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it wasn't, as we said, it wasn't the classic. You unfortunately missed it on Saturday, but you look at the stats that come from the game: 52 shots to 18. It was very much one-way traffic. But to be fair to Edinburgh, they took their chances when they came, scored a decent couple of goals off just the 18 shots, and also converted on the power play, which Panthers didn't manage to do on Saturday. So you know, they're hitting a bit of form. They have been hitting a bit of form, Edinburgh. So it was a potential banana skin avoided.
Well, I think that's what I was just going to say. Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't get to the game, but you know, you look at the shots, you read the reports, and it seems that it should have been a far greater scoreline than 5-2, and you have to obviously give credit to their netminder, and the just deserved man of the match for him, I believe. But look, like you just said, it could have been a potential banana skin. We've had, like Paul's just mentioned, you know, we've had that last season in our place. So look, we got the win, a few extra goals, a nice debut from the Juice. You know, it might not have been a classic, but look, you know, we got the points, and you know, that's the main thing at the end of the day. So
yeah, I'm sure we'll talk in a bit more detail about Sunday's game rather than Saturday's. But first, we're going to round off the action from Saturday. Scott Ancliffe was at Sheffield Arena to see Sheffield against Coventry. Here's his report.
Hi there, back from the Steelers game, resulting in a 5-4 overtime win for the Steelers against the Coventry Blaze at the Sheffield Motorpoint Arena. Yeah, to be fair, it was a pretty good game. Bit boring in places. But, you know, a good game overall and a good win for the Steelers, ensuring it's the 5th win in the last 6 games. So good to get a bit of a run going. Got some big games coming up against Nottingham and Belfast. So it's good to have a bit of momentum going into those games. So Coventry came out pretty strong, took a commanding 3-0 lead. You know, it looked bad from the stands for the Steelers. 3-0 down, I was thinking, oh God. You know, here we go again, inconsistency. So it was surprising to get the win at the final buzzer. Couple of power play goals for the Blaze to give them that lead. Ken Kallstrom and Mike Devin, couple of shots from the point, bit of traffic in front on the power play. They beat Doyle low. Then Shea Guthrie in the 8th minute gave them a 3-0 lead. Doyle tried poke checking the puck out. Guthrie just sort of pounced on that loose puck while Doyle was on the ice. Guthrie went round him and just put it low past Doyle in pretty much an empty net. Steelers regrouped, came back, a couple of power play goals at the end of the first period. Good Baldwin, who's got a bit of flack recently, he got a goal, nice goal as well, low shot from the point through traffic once again. And Steven Gertson basically cut in front from the right wing and then put it high past Zacharias as he was falling to the ice, so that was a good goal. So went into the first period break with a goal behind, trailing the Blaze 3-2. Second period was a scoreless one, bit of a boring period as well, to be fair, not much to report on, except for a bit of handbags between Ben Olsen and Stephen Meyer, a couple of glove punches, both of them got 2-minute penalties. Third period, Steelers tied it up, Tim Spencer on the power play, he sort of jammed home a loose puck from close range, jumped into the plexi, good little celebration there from Spencer. He's been pretty quiet late, really, with the physical stuff, and, the goal scoring as well. He's been pretty quiet, so it was good to see him get a goal. Hopefully that'll give him a bit of confidence. Then Coventry tied it up with Adam Henrich. Both of the Henrich brothers recently returned from injury, and they make such a big difference. Coventry have got so much depth with the Henriches, Ginand, Guthrie. So Adam Henrich, nice goal. He was just on hand to tap it home, close range on the power play. Good goal, Adam Henrich. And then Gord Baldwin tied the game up. So 4-4, another power play goal. Really nice goal. He snuck in back post. Great pass from Jeff Legui. Found Baldwin all alone in front of net. Just redirected that pass home from Legui. So it was going into overtime. So Coventry had the first couple of chances in OT. Looked like it could have gone their way. Then all of a sudden, Dustin Cohn, nice stretch pass to Rob Dowd. Put him on a breakaway. Kale Tanaka tried to catch up with Dowd. Dowdy just got the shot off. You always fancy Dowd on a 1-0 breakaway. Put it high past Zacharias to send the arena into raptures. Great finish, great goal from Dowd. Good win for the Steelers and hopefully give them some momentum. Like I say, going into some pretty big games coming up for the team.
So Coventry there 3-0 up and blowing the lead, and Sheffield gaining the win. Not an unfamiliar story this weekend, but we will come on to that a little bit later. But first, looking at the other games that took place on Sunday night, and I think it would be remiss not to start at the Big Blue Tent. Bit of a blowout for the Belfast Giants, I think you could say there.
The only thing I have to say about that is that Cardiff won the last period. Won it 2-1.
Yeah. Which is true. There's
another two periods before that, though.
Yeah, if you're looking for a positive to grasp onto, there it is. But
hey, I don't do positives apparently. Think on.
That's true. Belfast is, like we say, any superlatives. Juggernaut train. Steaming ahead. Superlative.
Superlative.
That's the one.
Well, never mind.
But
what I'd like to know is, was it more the fact that Cardiff was just nowhere to be seen than the Belfast being, that?
Belfast are a better side than Cardiff. I think we know that. But
would you say they're an 11-4? Better side than that? Because if you say that Belfast are a better side than Cardiff, we lost to Cardiff in the Big Blue Tent.
And the thing is, Cardiff have beaten us there. They've beaten Sheffield in the Big Blue Tent on a regular basis. Belfast have their number. That's their third time they played there this season, and 3 wins they've got. So is it a confidence thing? Is it a mental thing with them? You could argue.
They lost heavily to us last weekend, Cardiff, but they also won heavily in the week. Did you win heavily? Well.
Went well.
Yeah. But so you'd think, they'd lose confidence after last weekend, but they'd gain it again in the week. I don't know. Belfast, just like they've got, like a lot of teams, they've got their number.
Okay. Hull completing their 4-point weekend, another shootout victory, this time against Edinburgh. When we look at the table a little later, they're creeping up and they're starting to become a threat, and they're very much challenging the top 5 now.
Well, I mean, I think that's what momentum gives you, doesn't it? You know, if you can get a 4-point weekend, and then if you can follow that up with another 4-point weekend, and then you get another couple of points, you know, it's all, you're building ground basically, and it just shows you how vital these extra points are. You know, when you get to OT or a shootout, you might think, oh well, we've got a point, but you know, it's that extra point that if you do that 10 times over a season, that's an extra 10 points. And in this league, that will, you know, there's so many places that could either make you or break you. So fantastic weekend for Hull. But I mean, I think that's a pretty decent point for Edinburgh as well, though. I think they would be very, especially after the Saturday night, you know, the travel and all that. I think that's a decent point for Edinburgh as well. So, you know, not bad for both sides in one way.
Okay. Before we look at Panthers against Coventry, which we've got a lot to talk about in that one, Fife against Dundee. So Dundee gaining revenge on the previous night's loss with a 4-2 victory, which keeps them well in the mix and clear in second place.
Indeed it does.
Of course, Blair Daly again faced 28 shots, let him 4. But I mean, I think that's a really good weekend for him. I mean, backup netminders, it's probably one of the most unglamorous jobs in Elite League ice hockey, and for him to come in like that and produce 2 really stellar performances, I think he deserves a lot of credit.
Is holding a clipboard not glamorous then? Yeah, I mean, we talked the other week about Hull and their backup netminder. You know, 7-1 up twice in as many games, and he still doesn't get on. But you know, this shows why you need to give your backups time on the in-games on the ice. You know, so because there comes a point where they're going to need to be ready, and if all you've done is stand there with a clipboard swapping dirty jokes with the rest of the team on the bench, then you're not going to be ready for it. But yeah, be fair play to him. You know, won 1, lost 1, but he'll gain a huge amount of experience from it as well.
So, the moment you've all been waiting for. Of course, at the Sky Dome yesterday, Panthers against Coventry. Coventry once again racing into a 3-0 lead, and once again losing the game. I watched it on the webcast. I believe you also watched it on the webcast.
I did indeed.
And we'll talk about the game itself first before we move on to what I'm sure everyone wants us to talk about. But for the game itself, I really enjoyed the game, watching it, apart from the first 15 minutes, of course, where we went 3-0. And I must admit, for those 15 minutes, we looked bloody awful.
We just didn't get out the starting gate, did we, really? But to be fair to the Blaze in that point, they came out that starting gate with some passion and fire, and we looked shell shocked, to be honest. And I literally thought after the first one went in, oh God, yeah, we didn't really want that. And then it was like, oh, there you go, deja vu again. Oh, there we go, another. And they were pretty similar goals as well. You know, tip-ins from the front, and Conway pretty much didn't really have much screening or anything, did he really? But what I would say is what a great way to end the period. You know, talk about sucker blows. You know,
I think that was key as well. Getting those goals then. If we'd have gone in 3-1, 3-0 down, it'd be a completely different game.
Yeah. I thought to myself, as soon as those 2 goals went in, I think that did the Blaze. I think there was only ever going to be one winner from that point, because Blaze just completely deflated them, and Panthers went into the first interval with the momentum and then came out and just stamped their authority in the second period.
Well, it's funny really, because you would say that the team that was losing 3-2, went in with probably more confidence and more momentum than the team that was actually winning 3-2 because of how quickly we scored the 2 goals and how close they were to the end of the first period. But I think after that, we just sort of got into our stride, sort of like took a deep breath and went, right, let's control the game. And I think that's what we did. I think because of the Blaze rattled mentally, they would have been thinking about the previous night. We just were professional and controlled the game and pushed on, really.
I think a word for Brandon Benedict as well, who was excellent, absolutely excellent throughout the whole game and scored two absolutely corking goals.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's been. I think that you can see the difference when we play him up front. When he was having to play in defence, I thought it took away a lot of our creativity and a lot of the the energy he brings. Him and Francis are the powerhouses of our forwards. They're the engine room. They're not necessarily the classiest of players, but they're the ones that keep the team going. But there was something about the game that disappointed me, Johnny.
Oh, what's that then?
Yeah. This new Jacina bloke managed to lose a whole 1.5 points off his points per game average. That's poor. In a weekend, that's poor. I'm sorry, but it is. All right, he started at 4. 2.5's not bad, but 1.5 points, what was he doing?
Shall we move on to the what happened at the end of the game? So, of course, game finishes. They line up for the handshake. I'm looking away from the screen, just listening to Paul Wheeler's dulcet tones on the webcast, and then all of a sudden I hear something. Look up, and it's all kicking off, to say the least.
I was still watching, and
Being professional to the end.
well, exactly, But yeah, I was watching it, and then it was sort of like, this is just my 2 penneth, but it looked as if one of the Blaze players in front of Henrich sort of was shaking Grimaldi's hand, but then pulled him in a little bit tighter to say something. And then obviously Grimaldi decides to throw a few, which it probably isn't the best idea. And
I think we can quite clearly state that whatever was said, whatever was done, from a physical point of view, the whole incident was started by Joe Grimaldi. I don't think we can argue that.
No, not having illicitly seen the footage on YouTube. No, it did look, but there are other people in there who are not innocent either. I mean, what I would say though is fair play to Chris Murray, because I think if he could have managed it, he would have picked him up and thrown him off the ice instead of just having to push him off, and he looked mad as hell.
I think actually Joe Grimaldi ought to be buying Chris Murray a beer of his choice, because I think when the bans get announced, which they inevitably will do over the next couple of days, I'm sure,
10 minutes after we stop filming.
as usually happens. I think he's probably saved him from a few more games there.
Yeah, well, look, it was. And the only thing that annoyed me after that was, he's a coward, he's run to the bench. He didn't run to the bench, he got pushed.
He was wrestled to the bench.
He literally got chucked to the bench by Murray.
By his own player.
Yeah, exactly, and fair play to Murray, like we say, for doing that. But, what I couldn't understand, obviously in that situation, it just becomes like a mass brawl. People are squaring up to each other. They're not necessarily fighting, but they're just either stopping them from grabbing somebody else, or, it's just to settle it down a little bit. But yes, in my eyes, Grimaldi started it. The physical part of it. What was said, who knows? Only a few people know that. But then, really, how the Blaze reacted to that? Selby, for one, I have never seen that irate, and to the point of where somebody was actually having to hold him down on the ice, and then Henrich just.
Who threw his helmet, which hit Grimaldi square in the face. And then Henrich only ends up with a game penalty, and I think if that's the one that gets reviewed, then that will probably be.
And as well, he went practically half, at least the width of a zone to get back involved, shaking off the people that were holding him back. So, yeah, I would be surprised if he. I don't think we'll see massive bans.
To be honest, I don't think we should either.
No, I mean, like I say, Murray probably saved Grimaldi from getting worse. Yeah, but I would hope that we would see Henrich getting something beyond a game because it deserved it. Maybe one, maybe two. Same for Grimaldi.
And that's what I want to come on to, because in the grand scheme of things, when you look at it against things like checks to the head or really dirty plays, I mean, we probably look back at Kelsey Wilson when he did that two-handed chop last season. In the grand scheme of things, was this really that bad? It was just in the end, it was just a bit of a scuffle. Yeah. And I think obviously it's going to get blown out of proportion. I think because it was in the hand.
It already has. Have you not read Twitter?
Well, yeah.
See the news?
I mean, Twitter did explode a bit last night, but you know, looking at it, I just thought, you know what? It's a much ado about nothing. It's one or two players who are going to be in trouble, but you know, don't start giving them 3-4 game bans. You know, that's when it gets a bit ridiculous. Someone checking someone to the head and injuring them, then fair enough. That's worthy of multiple game bans, but something like that.
Well, I text you, didn't I, just saying, look, just let them get on. You know, let them sort it out on the ice next Saturday.
Please, please, Murray, please.
But you know, there has to some of the. I agree in this. You know, it's not. There's worse things that can happen and more dangerous things that can happen that deserve bans and stuff like that. Yes, you can't, you know, get away with on a handshake. But it was interesting for me actually after reading Twitter, seeing other people's reactions, other players, and not necessarily the person that you're thinking about, but even like. Sandrock from Belfast saying, do we really still need the handshakes?
Of course, it's something that doesn't happen in North America.
Yeah, he says 40 skaters, approximately, on the ice, 3 officials. You know, if something was really to kick off, you've got no chance, realistically. So, you know, are the handshakes even really needed at the end of the day? But
if the benches decide to go, it doesn't matter at what point in the game you could have the same number of people on the ice. Yeah. What I think, but in saying that, is Sandrock saying, yeah, I could do it. I could go on there and have a fight. I haven't got enough self-control to do it. I mean,
I think it's probably more to do with the fact it doesn't happen in North America. So they're probably
but they'll carry guns and think that carrying a gun makes it less likely that somebody's going to shoot you. That doesn't work either. But at the end of the day,
we're getting deep here.
Seriously?
How long have you been watching ice hockey?
A long time.
I won't ask him. It's about a week. I've been watching 34 years ish. I think it's 34, 33, 34. How many times have you seen that happen? Twice. And how many games have had a handshake after them?
All of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I suppose.
Mind you, I still hate Shannon Oat for doing that to Chris Kelly.
That was a long time, and that was the first time, of course. Shall we have a look at the Elite League table? Yes. Okay. So, of course, as we said, Giants top, 13 points clear from Dundee in second place, who are 2 points clear from both the Steelers and the Panthers. Braehead actually surprising. When I was having a good look at the table, I mean, they were sort of flying high in second place, now down in fifth. I mean, they've had they've not been in great form recently, and Ryan Finnerty, of course, won't take any prisoners, and has been in the press saying, you know, if you don't want to play for this club, you can jolly well get out of it.
Very politely put there, Jono. But I mean, I think the Braehead clan, they've had a bit of a dip, haven't they? They've had a bit of a slump. I would have fully expected Finner to come out and do exactly what he did, because that's Finner, and you need a reaction. You know, a coach that has ambition and a club that has ambition. You know, you can't just let the players get away with knowing that that's all right and that's acceptable. But what I would say is, you know, 4 points difference between them and Dundee in second.
It's very close to the top.
It's a weekend, really.
Yeah. And how many more times have they got to play each other?
Exactly.
True. But look, we were talking about Hull earlier. Look at that. I mean, now 33 points, 3 points clear in 6th place, only 4 points behind Brayhead.
You could just basically repeat the conversation we've just had. You know, it's 4 points. That's a weekend. How many times have they got to play each other?
Yeah, and you know, I think Hull have got a lot of momentum at the minute, and I think they're a dangerous team with the firepower they've got, and I can see them consolidating that 6th place and maybe even creeping up into 5th.
Into one monthly sum.
I mean, for me, looking at that table is you really see how much the Blaze and the Devils have struggled this season.
Yeah. Especially the Devils. I mean, they're just they're in danger of dropping into that bottom 2, which says bye-bye playoffs.
Well, 5 points behind the Blaze as well, so that's not a weekend.
No.
You know, that's a bit more, but that just shows...
It's a 3-game weekend.
Well, I know, yeah, but...
And how many times have they got to play each other?
And they are going up to Scotland soon as well, I believe, so 3 games in that. But no, in all seriousness, it just shows you how disappointing so far that has been for them 2 teams. But then it also shows you how great other teams have been, like your Dundee and like your Brayhead and even your Hull. So it's a good mix here, but the standout for me is Belfast need to start losing games, and it puts pressure on the games that Panthers that we play against Belfast. We need to win them. They must win games because we've got to take the points back out of them. Same for Sheffield. They've got to beat Belfast pretty much every time they play them to even at the moment have a standing chance, because just Belfast aren't losing to any other team. That's the problem.
Belfast title to lose?
Well, yeah. I saw a tweet from somebody the other day who said, if we win all our games in hand and all our games against Belfast,
we're a point behind.
Yeah. Which still means we're second, at least. But there's mathematical probability and there's realistic probability. Are we going to do that? I can't see it, and I can't see anybody else doing it. The league this year has been, in the main, very inconsistent. Everybody's been beating everybody else, to use a good old cliche.
Except Belfast,
who just kept going about their business, winning game after game after game. I think mid-February they'll probably have it tied up.
Okay, so we will leave the league standings there and we will look at them again next week. We're going to move on to our hot topic now, which is, should the format of the Challenge Cup be changed? Before we have a look at some of your tweets and we discuss it between ourselves, here's a couple of fan opinions that we got on Saturday night.
For me, Challenge Cup format definitely needs changing. It needs consistency. Either a game is a league game or a Challenge Cup game, or the group games double up with league games. You can't have some that are one, some that are the other, some that are both. It's just ridiculous. Teams are playing different numbers of games to get to the same stage of the competition. You've even got quarter-finals, semi-finals that are being decided in a different format to one another. It doesn't help when we're trying to attract sponsors and media to the league. It just makes it a laughing stock. It's one thing we don't need in selling the product to the Elite League.
I think the Challenge Cup needs to basically have some credibility back, because in the last few weeks it's really gone through the mill, and it's basically going to become quite a negative competition. I think every team needs to be able to be playing by the same rules, know the same format at the start of the season, and basically the 2 finalists of the competition need to play the same number of games to get to that point in the competition, and that might not happen in this instance. So I think really what we need is a level playing field for all the teams that start off in the Challenge Cup, so everyone knows exactly what they're dealing with. And really, I think if that's the case, and if there's a better structure for the Challenge Cup, then the trophy will continue to be held in quite high esteem by everybody in the Elite League.
So the thoughts of a couple of fans there on Saturday night. Aaron, what's your opinion on this one?
Well, I think like most people, it doesn't work for me at the moment. I'm not exactly happy about, doubling up games, because I just don't think that's right. I think I'm just of the view of a competition should be completely separate to any other competition that you play in. I know there's logistics, and and probably Paul will talk a little bit about that later on. But for me, it's got to be separate. It's how you do it. I don't know. I mean, this just could be my naivety, but take the FA Cup for example in football. Well, could you not just have a knockout competition pretty much?
I think it would be difficult, to be honest, because of the.
Well, I don't think it'd be difficult. I think some of the owners wouldn't want it.
I think
it's a nice earner.
Yeah, but how do you have a knockout in a 10-team league though? It's going to be over very, very quickly. And I know people have said maybe we can look at inviting the EPL teams in to play the Challenge Cup, but
we tried that before. Remember?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, but 4 imports against 10 imports, it's not going to be pretty. So, unfortunately,
what you do then is you play all that round of games at the lower teams' rinks. It's not going to balance it out completely, but it gives them a balance. But we're talking about an ideal world here, and we don't live in one of them.
No.
I'm getting deep again. So, but you've got the position where teams like Panthers, Belfast, are in arenas that have got other commitments. I mean, Sheffield are all right, so that they're all right climbing on the high horses because they can go to Sheffield. Chances are it would be a lot different if they didn't have that.
Oh, of course it would be.
But you've got the other teams who having that extra game, if they can get the ice, is another night earning for them.
Let's have a look at a couple of the tweets that we had in. So Andy Devils, he says about changing the format. Yes, teams should know at the start of the season that they might qualify. All rounds should be the same, not some playing one-off games. It makes a mockery of the league when arena teams play by their rules. Remember Giants and Panthers not playing a few years ago. I think he was talking about the British Knockout Cup there and not the Challenge Cup. That's going back. Jacko Gaz, he says absolutely no double ups with league games. 2-legged knockouts are a must. Consistency across the board. And then if I was in charge, it would be mostly a pre-season event, and the final would definitely be before Christmas.
I'm with him on that.
Yeah.
Like they used to do with the old Autumn Cup.
Yeah,
that used to work. You played all your knockout games first before you even got into the
group games.
Well, group games, yeah, and the group games as well. Play all your group games. It's going to be like that before you get into the league games, and we got it done by the beginning of December.
I would be very much in favour of that, because I think you could pretty much do away with the pre-season, and your group games would be sort of the first game. So the only games you play are cup games, and then you start the league season probably late September, early October.
No, I think it's a good suggestion, but just standing here listening to obviously the conversation that we're having, it's like Paul says, we're coming up with the idea, or we're coming up with ideas that because we live in a perfect world. Well, we don't, like Paul says, and there's arenas to take in. There's the revenue for smaller teams if they play more with more games, group games. There's a lot of factors that you've got to try and agree on to change the format. I think even if you would ask people within the sport, do you think it needs to be changed, or could we change it for the better? I think they would even say yes. But the biggest question is how. Yeah. And that's.
I think, like Emily Gretton says, we play a lot of games to knock one team out in each group.
That's ridiculous.
But I think what that points to is the money-making opportunities.
I mean, for me, two groups of 5 to become 8 quarter-finalists is quite ridiculous. It should be 2 groups of 5, top 2 in the semi-finals.
Yeah. Are the groups even fair?
Well, you could almost say, on that basis, you can guarantee, more or less, Panthers, Sheffield, Belfast, Braehead almost certainly are going to qualify for the quarterfinals out of them groups, and then it's a bum fight for the rest.
But isn't, we're talking about the FA Cup. Isn't one of the great things about the FA Cup is that you never know what's going to happen? I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Spurs get knocked out because they're playing Arsenal in that third round. So they played one game. Isn't that part of the magic of the FA Cup?
I would be more concentrating on Forest beating West Ham 5-0 personally, because I enjoyed that very much.
I agree with that, though. I think there is a part of if we want to make the cup feel special, and
it's just another game now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, and that's why the Mickey Mouse, cup and all that lot, where get a bit of atmosphere around it and make a smaller team actually have a chance of possibly winning it.
And tweet from Tina Taylor, which is basically saying doubling up with league fixtures makes a mockery of the whole thing. Either do it properly or not at all. And I think that's an overlying opinion that is around about this. Ray Monaghan, who I believe does the Centre Ice podcast, he says problems past 2 seasons show it needs change. This doesn't happen in any other kind of professional league that I know of, and he's got a very good point there. He's saying scrap the quarter-final stage, make first 2 weeks of the season cup only matches, and complete the other by the 4th of December. Semi-finals in Jan and final in Feb, which is slightly different to what we were saying, but it's along those lines.
He's dragging his heels at the end. Most of that were okay.
It's just an interesting one, isn't it? It's like I say, I think people know it needs to be changed, but it's how do you go about it?
Okay, well, I'm sure it will be a topic that rages on, especially next season when the fixtures come out.
I'm Rob Lakovich and you're watching Cats Whiskers TV.
We're going to finish off this week's show by having a look at some of the games that are coming up in the Elite League this week. So, first off, Thursday night, Big Blue Tent. Panthers taking on a Cardiff team that will be reeling after the 11-4 loss from Belfast. But however, Panthers not won in the Blue Tent in the league so far this season, so could be close.
Well, it could be, or it could be, not close with the other results.
Cover them bases.
Well, no, but look, we haven't won there all season, but Cardiff are on a bit of a slider at the moment. They're conceding a lot of goals. For us, it's a must-win game in my eyes. If we're, it's our one game in hand that we've got on the rest of the league. We've got to get 2 points. It's as simple as that. If we are seriously still want to be in the mix and still be into the point where we play Belfast, if we win, we're taking points and stuff like that. We've got to win this game. It's not going to be easy. Look, mentally we've not won there in the league, like you say. Cardiff, they're going to be wounded. The fans are going to be expecting a fight back. It could be a barnstormer, like we've said in the past, but as long as we get 2 points in that, I don't really care what happens. Just no serious bans or injuries, obviously, but just get the 2 points, please, lads.
A game that stands out for me on Saturday night that I think has the potential to be a really good game is Hull against Dundee. Dundee, of course, in second place. Hull shed loads of momentum, especially after a 4-point weekend in Scotland. I think that has the potential to be a very, very close game.
Dundee will go into the most versatile arena. With a bit of trepidation, they'll know they've got a game on. I'll make sure Sam goes to that so we can get a report.
Yeah, absolutely. The premier sports game of the week on Saturday is Sheffield against Belfast. I've got to be honest, I can only see an away win in that game.
The thing is, though, really, from a Panthers point of view, what result do you want?
You will probably want Sheffield to win that game, to take some points off them. But to be honest, Sheffield have picked up results-wise, but they're still only scraping results. They were still 3-0 down against Coventry on Saturday night, and
so were we.
But also Coventry were 4-3 ahead in the third period as well. So, I just think Belfast I'd be very surprised if they didn't win that game.
In that situation, like I said earlier, Sheffield and Nottingham have got to start taking points off Belfast when they have the opportunity. Saturday night is a perfect opportunity for Sheffield. Now, if they don't take points and it is Belfast 2 points, then really we've all sort of got to say at some point it's just Belfast's. Because there's got to come a time where you have to, like I say, a Sheffield or a Nottingham end the Giants' sort of run of picking up points. They've got to have a weekend where they don't pick up many points, and it's at home for Sheffield. I'm sure they'll try and get a big crowd there. If they can't do it then, when are they ever going to do it?
Of course, I suppose what has now become one of the biggest games of the weekend takes place just next door on Saturday night. The return of Panthers against Coventry. The biggest rivalry in the Midlands. There we go. I would be very surprised if there's less than 6,000 at that game, given what happened on Sunday night. It's going to be a hot ticket. I just hope it isn't a disappointment, considering what people may be expecting after the shenanigans, shall we say, and the handshakes.
It all depends to a large extent on what Maury Hansen is thinking about doing. If a load of players are banned, it's not going to be a damp squib, because nobody's going to want to fight with that, with that small benches.
And of course, the news that Shea Guthrie will be missing for the next 6 weeks with a broken finger, so which I believe he has to have surgery on, so that obviously complicates it. So they're already an import down. They may be another import down if Henrich gets a ban, and then exactly what you say, are they going to be wanting to fight in and taking penalties?
Well, I mean, I think that's where, if we talk to Murray Hansen and say, does common sense come into play here, and say, look, you're playing, in Coventry's case, you're playing them, that's your next game is against them. Shall I just, I'll give the ban to Grimaldi, I'll give it to Selby, which has already been given, but I'm giving you the opportunity there to sort it out like men on the ice, and then giving the responsibility to the ref, whoever it is on that night, to manage that situation.
He's going to need a strong ref, and what I can see Hansen doing as well is getting the protagonists out the way from Sunday night, so that to try and get a smoother passage through. I to be honest, I think it'll be a damp squib in terms of a rematch. I think Corey's got enough control over them to send them out and say, look, 2 points is what we want. Hit them where it really hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the points off them.
Because it doesn't get any easier for Coventry over the weekend, because on Sunday night they're playing Cardiff. I saw a cracking tweet about that game earlier today, where I think it was from Timmy Chock, who's one of the 50-50 sellers at the Sky Dome, basically saying, I think both teams could lose this. the way they're playing.
He's probably not far wrong, really, is he? An important game for both, and I think whoever wins that game would get a little bit of confidence. Not a lot, but a little bit of confidence. Flip a coin in that one for me, though. It really is.
I think you're right with that one. So, also Edinburgh Belfast, I think you were looking at.
I mean,
of course, the last time they played, Edinburgh won that game. So
I think they'll win Belfast, but I think it could be a potential banana skin. I mean, I still remember being in Hull last season, and the news travelling round that Edinburgh had beat Belfast, and they were just watching it spread down the side of the ring. It was the strangest thing, but I think Belfast will probably still win, but hey, who knows?
You never know. And then Braehead against Hull also on Sunday. And the Hull, I think, have won the last two at Braehead Arena, including this weekend just past. So You know, you wouldn't rule out a Hull victory in that game.
I mean, you wouldn't, but it's Bray had got 2 games at home there, haven't they? And like I said earlier, they've had a bit of a blip and a bit of a slump. It's a perfect opportunity to, you know, really get back on track and keeping contention with the teams at the top. I mean, you only have to look at the second leg of the Challenge Cup to say they've got the performance in them. You know, the home crowd will be still buzzing from that in one way. You know, go out and perform like you did that night.
And don't forget that you've got Hull Wednesday night. You've got Hull versus Brayhead in Hull as well. So these games against each other keep coming up, and it builds a rivalry up. I think we could be stood here this time next week talking about Hull as the form team.
Okay, well, that is all for this week. We, of course, will be back next week. So thanks to Aaron and Paul once again, and thanks to everyone who contributed to this week's show. We'll be back next week. See you then.